the topics and like which topic would fit one of the scenarios. So we went to the Mira board and started looking at all the different scenarios. And Miller picked, I think, one of the good ones. It was at the bottom right. It was about like a participant being ignored and then coming to the conversation and his idea being dismissed. So we thought about voter turnout rate, how a low voter turnout rate could like fit into that. But then we decided that, wait, Miller, did we decide immigration or was it, I think it was immigration fit into it better. If anyone from Break Everyone also wants to pitch in. So then
Yeah.
Who said that? Oh, Maya.
Sorry, I was just gonna pitch in, like, we kind of went back and forth on the topic to fit to that and which one fit it best. And I think the consensus was that we needed to do something that was a little bit more like of a controversial issue, because it seemed like the purpose of that simulation was to like be able to remain calm and respectful, even if you feel like you're being like ignored or your ideas aren't being valued in a situation. Like, so I think we decided, yeah, immigration, and there was a few others that could fit that.
Yeah, and the problem with low voter turnout rate was we couldn't really think about how a video could play a part into it very well. Like we can't just have a guy just like discussing what the voter turnout rate is right now. That's kind of
you want. What do you want the video to? What outcome do you want the video to accomplish?
Yeah, that's the thing. We didn't really want a lot of. Well, maybe it was a different consensus, but we didn't want like a lot of information from the video. It was more of like, it was like an example to watch and like learn from that and how they did that or something like that. But yeah, that's it.
Awesome. If no one else from group one has anything to share, then, or no comments.
Yeah, I'd be interested. Does anybody have any reactions to what you heard?
I mean, I don't know how to react to it, but you know, you said you wouldn't want a video with it, which I understand. I don't know how you'd make a video with that. So do you think we should have certain topics that don't have a corresponding video, or what do we think about that?
I mean, I kind of agree. We shouldn't. I mean, if somebody can think of a good idea to implement a video to some of those topics, but then there's not necessarily a need to have so many videos, like each topic needs a video.
But if not a video, could they benefit from something else? I mean, I'm not saying they have to, but I'm just wondering, maybe you're right. Maybe a video isn't the right complement here, but maybe there's something else that would bring about the educational aspect, as Parrish was mentioning. Maybe there's another way besides the video is what I'm wondering.
Like a simulation, like a game or something else, like something interactive, or what do you, okay. Your
project, sky's the limit. Well, not really. You have the sky's the limit as long as you take off within a few, by the time your runway's over, which is another startup term. You have a certain amount of runway made up of money. If you run out of money, you're out of runway. What's another thing your runway is made up of? Time. Love it, right? If you run out of time, you're out of runway. So there's other things you can run out of too, but those will do for now. Anyway, yeah, it's your project. So you guys get to think about how would you want to have an impact. Anyway, I'll leave it there.
Kylie, have your hand raised.
Okay, I just wanted to say that I feel like whenever I was reading through a lot of the scenarios, it gave, like, there was a little bit of the description that said that it could be like they would listen to what the participants were most passionate about, or like the topics that they knew about, and then choose one of those. But I feel like the purpose, at least in my head, of like the videos containing some information is that then the simulation can have like a pre-chosen topic, and then the participants will learn about it, so it doesn't matter what knowledge they have coming in. But maybe I'm misunderstanding, but I just think that that is like the main purpose of the videos containing information. And if we were just going to continue to choose the topics based on what the participants already know, then we should gear the videos more towards reflecting the civil conversations that are going to be taking place in the simulation.
Oh, I was gonna say something, but actually what you said at the very end intrigued me. Could you repeat that about the reflecting part?
Oh, I was just saying that if the videos aren't going to be knowledge focused and aren't going to be focused on teaching the participants about different issues, then I think that we should, because if the simulations are chosen based on what the participants already know, then there's no need for informational videos, like basically like teaching them about the simulation topic before they go into it. So then I think that the videos could be more focused on reflecting the civil discourse and like the ideas that we're teaching in the simulation of how to have a civil conversation. And that can be more of just like a baseline example instead of having that knowledge. But it just depends on where we want to go with the videos and their purpose.
Okay, yeah. I just want to make a quick comment. I mean, the things written in the simulation, none of that is set in stone. Uh, I like how you've been considering that the videos are flexible as well. Actually, final group to share has also shown that the simulation can be flexible as well. But yeah, any more comments on what group one has said? If not, group two, would you like to present what you've done?
My mic work? Testing. Kind of. Oh, epic. All right. So we kind of drafted a whole MVP in group two, and I don't really mean to brag, but I really like it. But anyway, so basically our MVP consists of complete integration of videos and simulation. I'll explain that. So we begin with the in-debate video that you all told me about, where it interviews a speech and debate coach about how to have civil discourse. And after this, so here's the complex part to understand. Okay, so you have your interview video over a certain topic that's going to be the central topic for the entire simulation, just one. And the reason we want just one topic through the simulation is because we're not focused on learning about the topic, we're focused about learning on the skills. And since the videos have a lot of topics, we could make like it variable. Like it could be a different topic for every simulation run through, and that could keep us like different and fun. And we'll have the videos available so like the participants can go back and see the other videos too. But what we want to do is we want to take an interview video, because there's going to be a portion of it that talks about the topic itself, like what the field is about and like how all that works. We want to cut that part out and put it in the beginning, so the participant can kind of get like a heads up about like what they're talking about and like get a little bit of background. It won't be too long. Then they go through the simulation. Simulation consists of 3 phases. There's no heat phase, little heat phase, a lot of heat phase, and that's just layman's terms. So heat phase is
You want me to explain the 3 real quick?
yeah, go ahead.
So I kind of made like 3 short little titles for each one. So the first scenario is called Prevent Fire. So it's the easier one. So it's more about, like, as the conversation begins, use your civil conversation skills to prevent strife from occurring at all. So the SP will be set to be pretty neutral. And you're using your skills to have a civil conversation, but you're not receiving a lot of pushback. The second one's called Calm Down, which is like more of a medium heat. So the SP will get heated in the conversation, and you have to use the skills that you've learned to calm the SP down and bring peace back to the conversation. The third one's called Walk Away, which is the harder one. So when the SP will get like pushed back on everything that you say, and you have to be able to accept what they're saying and walk away. So Lane, do you want to talk about when the second part of the video comes in terms of those 3?
Yeah, I definitely can. And so the second part of the video has all the questions that's like how should we be discussing this? Like, how can they be interviewed? Like, what should be discussed in this topic? And that could go after the no heat section, because then like the participants will kind of gain insight like what they're supposed to like discuss about like what should be discussed, and like they'll use that as they go forward into the heat to kind of like help them calm it down. And then after those three phases, that concludes simulation, and it's followed by an in-person debrief. And this debrief is over like it's over like relevance and like how it can be applied to many more political topics, which will keep us relevant in the future. And since politics is consistently changing, that was a way we thought we could address that. And yeah, that concludes it.
So if you go on Miro, there's a frame called like 11.4.20 meeting notes, and the rectangle at the bottom has like a 1 through 8 step of the simulation, and then a box of the scenario objectives, and explains like what each one is. So any comments, questions, or concerns?
Did people digest that? There's a lot of details.
Yeah, I was going to say that's why maybe looking at it step by step, it might make a little bit more sense.
And we can come back to it, but what would you say are the key features of what you put forth that you'd want the cohort to really pay attention to?
I think having three. Sorry, school bell just went off. Having 3 different like scenario levels, I think proves like 3 points. So like the first one's easy, and it shows you like how a civil conversation can play out and how like beneficial it can be. And then it also gives you scenarios where like you might encounter people who are going to push back and not agree with you, and know how to handle that. So it's like covering 3 different.
Yeah, oh, so good. So with that, imagine how this would work. The way a group would go to a scenario would be, maybe you're all med students in the same class, or maybe you're all college students in a club, and you want to go through the simulation. It's like, it's kind of like a escape room in a way. I think of a simulation a lot like an escape room. And I actually think it'd be kind of cool to do it that way too. Make it more than just a simulation. Make it, I don't know, dynamic. If you've ever been, anyway. Yeah, political escape room, in order to escape the oven. You know what I mean? Okay, we're going to do a mild thing. It'll be easy to get out of the oven. It's mild heat, Here, the oven's really hot. Anyway, I don't mean to ideate on it, but what we have to think through is, you're going to have a group, let's say 20 people, and they're going to go through. So you're all going to have them, let me just ask, this is a question. You're all going to have them watch the same video. Yes or no in your breakdown, okay? And then, how long is that video? You said it'd be a longer video. Longerish video, or how long do you picture it being?
Which video? Like
the first video, the one everybody
the
watches.
speech and debate, or the overall so speech and debate. This wouldn't really be my question, not in the video committee. So
No. In your scenario, under whatever the first videos, you were going to have everybody watch one. Is that right? Or am I misreading the steps? Let's see.
First step would be like the speech and debate video.
Well, no, I see video about civil conversation. Yes, speech and debate. Okay, good. Civil conversation video. How long is that?
I don't know. I'm not in the video committee.
Okay.
We're flexible too on the length of the video. So like whatever length would work for your guys' model, we can do, because we haven't, the video isn't made yet.
All right. And then about a video about education, first half, explain their field and basic information. So does everybody know what that means? Or does anybody want it explained? Anybody want that explained?
That's just like the general information video, right?
So basically, like, we have the interview video, and like in any interview video, there's going to be a part about where they like talk about their field in general, and like what they talk about, what they do and how they do it, and like the significance of their field. We cut all of like the specific information part out of that video and put it in the front. Then we put the other half where it's like talking about how you should discuss it, or like how it should be like looked at, and all the more abstract questions on the issue in the middle after the first.
All right, that's a lot of video. You're asking people to download a lot of stuff to start the day or start the experience. Okay, so then a lesson about learning objectives, which is okay, out of today, we want you to some idea of learning how to handle conversations and be an agent of positive political discourse, however you want to say that. Scenario one, okay, this one's meant to be mild. So everybody's going to go through the same scenario. Maybe there's 30 people going through the scenario, or let's say 20, let's keep it at 20. So you know, how many actors or, you know, whatever they call them, SPs will you need? And how will that work? And usually the way that works is maybe there's enough to do 5 people to go through the scenario. So then what would happen is 5 people will play the role, and then maybe 4 or 5 people will observe that person playing that scenario out. Might be one way it would go. I'm just trying to get you to think, because we have to make this integrate with how the simulation center works. We can't over design it here. So I'm just trying to give you some thoughts on that. So then now, let's say you're the one who got chosen to go, you got the card, and maybe 3 or 4 of your friends are going to watch you, and you're going to go through the low heat, the prevent fire scenario. And it's going to be how might that look? What might that look like?
So in the box on the side, that kind of explains each one, but this is, like you said, the mild. So the SP is not going to push back as much, and they're going to be using civil conversation skills as well. So you're kind of going to see them use the skills, and hopefully you can a little bit too, even though it'll be new and it is the first scenario, but it'll be mild and maybe a little bit of like, okay, like I hear what you're saying, I understand where you're coming from, I believe this. So like kind of giving an example of a pretty one.
Okay, good. All right, great. And then that's over. We do the scenario, we play it out. Okay, wow, I got an experience of how to deal with mild pushback. Maybe we debrief it, or do we go into the next one? That's a small issue. It's an important one, but to be decided later. And now, okay, what we got another video. It's the second half of the educational one, so it's going to go a little deeper. All right, Lane, do you want to say anything about this?
Okay, so this one, this part would be like of the abstract views of like the video, and with the interview, like the questions Graham posed, like at the beginning of the meeting, that were like, how like should this issue be discussed? How like all the abstract issue questions, and what I envisioned those would do, like the purpose of putting them there would help like the participants like kind of get a deeper understanding of like what they need to discuss, and that'll help them when they like are faced with the heat and like all the argumentation coming from other people, and that'll help them like calm it down or like find a way to deal with it.
So the education is about debate skills, or not debate skills, but conversational skills, and how to maybe, like, I don't know if this is the right word, but maybe verbal self-defense and verbal facilitation, not even self-defense, but verbal positivity, verbally pointing things in the right direction, disarming, diffusing tension, and being productive. So, and I want to make sure there's time for the other groups, but as we're talking through it, then the next one is a scenario 2, which is more intense, and then maybe more pushback from the actor or the SP, and then maybe some discussion. Okay, and then the third one, which is really intense if you've got time, and then a debrief of the whole experience. What did you get from today? And then maybe some videos, or, you know, here's some resources you have. Does that sound about right? Good. All right. Now, everybody else, any comments or questions? Was that helpful to go through that, and any thoughts on their ideas?
I think possibly what Adam was trying to get at earlier about the video like length is like, what is the maximum video watching time that people will go through during the simulation?
And what is the total length of the simulation? Because if you've got an hour, and let's say you use 1/4 of that for videos, and how much are you going to need for the instructions, and how much does that leave for scenarios and debriefs? So you got to just think through how you're going to allocate your time, but that's okay. That's further down the road when we get into the details of the design. what we're doing now is we're getting a concept together to see if you guys like it. You know, each group 1 talked and shared their concept. This is group 2's concept. And then I just thought the way the first pass through it didn't give it enough, it didn't show what it really had in it. Does that make sense? And do you all agree that the second time we broke it down, was it valuable for you all somewhat to hear more in detail? Awesome. All right, and then back to the co-facilitators.
Yeah, any other comments or concerns, or do we want to move on to the last group?
Okay. Also, a quick note, unfortunately, I think we might have to not play Among Us. So on that note, group break main room, I don't know, we'll just call it breakout room 3, I guess. You guys like to share what we did? You can share your screen or like the mirror board if you want.
Derek, do you think you could like pull up the thing and then like if you could screen share and then yeah. Okay. I'll just try to keep it brief so that the rest of my group members can come in too. But so originally we were going to do something like what group 2 did, pick like a simulation, figure out how to put a topic with it. But the main issue we came upon was that we kind of have 2 different types of topics. We have the controversial ones like police or criminal justice or drug regulation, where people can say like, I support it or I don't support it. But then we realized that we have a lot of like potential interviewees talking about things like food deserts, homelessness, and no one's going to say like, I support homelessness or I don't support homelessness. So we figured we need to have some kind of, our group decided to focus on an MVP that addressed, for lack of a better word, mundane issues, which aren't necessarily as controversial, but still are important to address. So on the right side, there's this thing called mundane MVP. And we just picked a topic like food deserts that we thought wasn't really like you go one way or the other. Like everyone knows we need to tackle food deserts, but we don't know how. So we really wanted to focus on how to like implement like an interview with our MVP. So we figured we could ask the interviewee a question. It's actually the question towards the bottom. Ask them a question like, could you give us 2 or 3 potential solutions to this issue? And also their pros and cons. That way we can then transition from the video into like a simulation or like interactive activity where we have participants maybe like advocate for a certain one of the solutions that the expert presented. And we have them like talk about the pros and cons with their peers. So this way, kind of like what group 2 was saying, we can like make it adjustable to multiple issues with one like template of an MVP, in that we have the video focus on like, can you give us some potential solutions to this issue and their pros and cons? And then we have the participants talk about like which ones they advocate for. So like without having to say like I 100% side with this issue or I 100% go against it, we can focus on like which solutions they like. And that way we can still generate like conversation and like actual like not necessarily argument, but kind of like a little bit of disagreement, so that we don't just have everyone like agreeing with each other. So if anyone, I know that's kind of long, but if any of the other group members want to add on, go ahead.
Need me to screen share just to say so. But yeah, so like I mentioned at the very beginning, whenever we started introducing the summaries, that like you know, it kind of seemed like videos would need to adapt by like incorporating more of the skills-based conversation. But then like also, you know, this break room showed that like the simulation has also adapted to like incorporate that as well. It's not just like, you know, it's a give and take. It's not just like you do that and we'll stay the way we are kind of thing. But I like, maybe I should share this a little more, but so like something about this is just like for simulation, now we have like a potential thing to address like the other topics in this video. And it's like, it's not even like, I don't know where I was going with that, but so like there's a new, I guess like a lot of the simulation categories we have are essentially controversial topics. I'm sure all the other groups also found that out when looking at it. Like it's just like this side or that side, but that's not all the different possible like civil discourse scenarios in real life. You know, sometimes people are debating, they're all on the same side, but they're just debating on which solution is like the best or whatnot. So like we kind of came up with a scenario that could address that area of life as well. So any comments on that summary just then? Or
Yeah. I liked your take on focusing on something more like on a topic that's less controversial but still just as important. And I think that that could be applied to like the 3 scenario objectives. Like when you are talking about possible solutions to the problem, you could have a civil conversation with SB, and then maybe they could push back a little bit more, and then even more. I think like having 3 like really different ideas, I think could combine to make something really cool.
Does anybody have any questions? Or does anybody want to point out what's distinct about this approach that they liked, who wasn't on this committee? Or what did they hear that was different?
I liked how you guys like separated the topics between like controversial and not controversial, because I know like on Sunday that topic had kind of come up that like not all of the topics are really debatable. So it was nice to see how like that's not necessarily going to be a problem. Like we can work around that.
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment. Love what you said, Ali, but like not just work around, like actually integrate to make it a critical part of the simulation. It's instead of like it just being like an afterthought. Like, you know, I think one of the committees was saying like some topics might not need videos because they might not apply to the simulation, but now it's like, yes, if you got the videos, we can use them effectively in a simulation as well.
So let me just ask, walk me through it. What's the first thing that happens? I show up, me and my group of 20, my class of 20, we show up to the simulation center. What happens?
So, Derek, I think, okay. So we already have an interview made, ideally, where we have, let's just go with the idea of food desert. We have an interviewing, we ask them questions like more generic questions that are like, what do teams need to focus on? What are like the biggest issues? What is causing these divides? But towards the end of it, we have a question that's about what are a couple potential solutions and their pros and cons. And without like actually advocating for one, our like interviewee / expert.
All right, let me just stop real quick. So food deserts, the participants are gonna show up and you're gonna ask them to do what with food deserts? Learn about it or what?
Okay, so
watch the interview video.
Watch a video about food deserts, okay? And then come up with solutions to the problem themselves.
Not
the expert would
kind of. It was more about our interview video that we created some amount of time before the simulation. Towards the end of the interview video, we asked them, like we asked the expert to come up with like 2 or 3 potential solutions and their pros and cons. And then Adam, you and your group will individually pick a solution to advocate for after weighing their pros and cons, and then discuss with your group. That way, we can take an issue that's not necessarily controversial, but still have like differing opinions.
Okay. All right. That's a lot to put into getting to, you know, like before I actually get to learn the skill. But okay. So then we go, so then I come up with the solution or I pick a solution that I like from what the video said, or what?
Yeah. I mean, with your comment about like it's a lot to get into, like I'm sure like if the participants haven't seen it already, we'll have the civil discourse video somewhere before that. But like again, I'm not really sure like how multiple simulations will interact with one another. But assuming they've already seen that video, like we'll just make sure they'll have seen the civil discourse video before they get into this.
Okay. Yeah, it's just good. It's just good as we're coming up with our MVPs. We want to think through how it's going to look. because, you know, we want to use the build, measure, learn approach. We're going to build it. We're going to measure the results. We're going to learn from it and adapt. We're going to build the next version. And the faster you do it, that's called cycle time. And if it takes forever to get through a cycle, that's a lot of resources you're going to burn up. So that's why you want to keep it minimal, but you also want to keep it viable. And so you can, you know, you want to get that churn rate going fast, build, measure, learn, or fail forward faster, build, measure, learn. So I'm asking you to think through this, and the more you can think through it ahead of time and then test it quick and then readapt, the better off you're going to be, to see if A, people understand what you're doing, and B, is it enjoyable? Like, or I would say engaging. Is it an engaging experience? Very important. And engaging could be some combination of, is it fun and productive? Does it lead me toward a goal? Does it help me do something better? And then, was it not too painful to do and actually kind of fun? You know, and if you could pull that off, that should be your goals for quality. Those should be your outcomes. Now, the other thing that's really important today, because I got to get off of here early in a few minutes. Let's see, Derek and Edie met. I've been meeting with this hospital executive team, and they got to meet some of them because the other night, one of my meetings overlapped. They were having a personnel crisis issue, and the CEO had to be there and the head of human resources, and I met with them. And then I also was meeting with Derek and Edie. Anyway, so I got to meet with them here in a few minutes, and I'm taking up too much time. You got to wrap up the meeting. But later on today, there's a meeting with Kristen. Is that right?
Yes, from 4 to 5 p.m.
Okay, so who can attend that meeting, and who should and could attend that meeting?
Anyone that can should attend.
Great. Yeah, anyone who's interested, right?
Yeah, we'll post the Zoom link in the base camp chat. So we'd love anyone there.
Good.
And a lot of the questions that Adam brought up today, like cycle time and stuff, we're going to be asking those questions to Kristen and seeing, and those responses are going to be really valuable to how we end up shaping this MVP as well. So a lot of stuff is going to get done today.
Good. And I want to say, guys, I hope you're experiencing what I've been talking about, is to the degree you can make sure that you have your purpose clear. What is our focus and why does it matter? And that you know what your outcomes are. And then you use your resources to meet those outcomes. Whoever does that the best wins. Whoever best uses their resources to produce the desired outcomes, that's what performance is. If you hear me now and believe me later, on grades, in business, that's what performance is. The degree to which you identify, grow, and deploy your resources to produce the outcomes that reflect your purpose. And then I'm just going to say this: if you are doing anything else, you are doinking around. Doinking means you are wasting resources. You think you have a plan, but you don't. You think you have a great idea that inspires you, but it isn't right because you haven't shown that idea wasn't conceived of to meet the outcomes. It was an idea that you just liked because it seemed cool, but you didn't think through it. This is how most of the world works. It's the ideas first, the methods. Methods are anything that burn your resources, consume resources. And if your methods don't produce outcomes, then they're bad methods.